We've got Rick Curtis in, and Rick is a person from Fort Wayne who, during the early mid-'60s, went off to New York. He's a songwriter. He's also a performer, and he's got a few things he can tell us about that time period of music. All right. Now he's still a songwriter. In fact, he'll be performing in Fort Wayne. We'll be talking about that a little bit later on. But welcome to Nuggets, Guy.
Thanks a lot, Rick. I really appreciate it.
All right.
It's great to be here.
Let's give them a brief overview of...
okay.
God, what year did you start out?
I got out of the Air Force in 1963, and I went home, and my brother had already gotten into the Beach Boys and the Byrds and, electric music. He was into band music, and I was playing by myself and playing bluegrass once in a while with friends, and he got me interested, and we got a band together, and we ended up just taking off and going to New York. That's the two of us, and got into, at the time, a lot was happening in California, but in New York, there was a whole nother scene.
Why'd you pick New York over California?
I think because it was closer,
All right.
But we didn't have much money, and we knew a couple of people there. Harvey Brooks was one of the people we knew.
That's the guy who played bass on some of the Doors.
Yeah, he played on
sessions.
the Doors, and he played with on Seals and Crofts' first album, which is really a great album. And he was in Electric Flag and a few things like that. Did a lot of side work, and he ended up letting us stay with him in New York. And Felix Pappalardi was living with him, and it was like we just happened into this whole scene through him. He was in the mainstream of it, and he played on all of Dylan's records too. Him and Al Cooper, and we knew Al Cooper sort of, and we were just kids from Goshen, though. Really, in reality.
How old were you at this time?
Oh, I was 21, and my brother was 18, and we ended up living also with a guy named Steve Paul, who owned the Scene, which was a club he had, which was a real happening club in New York at the time, and he was booking in Hendrix and the Doors on alternating weekends, and. Tim Hardin was playing down there, and the Youngbloods, and a lot of different incredible groups. Tiny Tim was playing there every night.
Tiny Tim?
Yeah,
really?
For $40 a night he was playing, or a week, I should say. And
whoa. Now, was this before he made it? Before he did the Carson thing? Or?
Well, I think it was the peak of his career.
Was it?
One of the peaks, because he would play all night, and then he'd give advice to the lovelorn. People would line up to talk to him, and he's really a very unique person. Someday people are going to find out how unique.
What kind of guy is he? What
wonderful
kind of guy
person.
Is Tiny Tim?
He's a wonderful person. And
is he serious about his gig?
Yeah, he loves what he's doing. He loves to entertain people, and when you see him play, you really know you've seen somebody. He's without the TV thing, he's really a very warm person. He plays great guitar too, which a lot of people don't know. He's an incredible guitarist. And
did he do that during his show at any point?
No, he just uses the ukulele and spreads his philosophy around. But he was down there every night, and Steve Paul would hire about 40 dancers, to dance down there. So the place always looked full, and you could just wander in and wander out. And Andy Warhol was down there every night with a whole bunch of his people, and
how
it was pretty wild.
How many people did the Scene actually hold?
Not very many. I would say let's see, what can I compare it with in Fort Wayne? It's a pretty small room, about the size of the VFW, I guess.
Really?
Yeah, and it really maybe hold about 100 people, or 120 people at the max, And,
all right.
But I was at New York at that time was pretty far out, and
well, then you're talking about the Andy Warhol days.
Yeah,
that's got to be crazy. What about the Velvet Underground? They were
playing. They were playing there all the time. Yeah, we saw them. We saw them several times play down there.
Lou Reed and
all the Wild Junkies. Yeah, and boy, they were too.
They were heavy.
Yeah, it's hard to tune. It's hard to tune on junk. It messes your ears up. So they
were all out of
keyboard players don't have to worry, but when you got guitarists, it's so they were all over the place. They were a real strange outfit.
Whoa, God, we've got a lot to talk about. In case you just tuned in, we've got Rick Curtis up for our Christmas show this year, and Rick has been around. He's a songwriter. And a lot of people went out to California. I remember I had a lot of friends. People just took off. Didn't matter if they were out of high school yet or not. Some of them just took off to California like a big magnet out there. Well, Rick and his brother Mike were affected by New York. They went the other way, and it was an entirely different scene, in many ways a much faster pace than California. But anyway, we'll be talking to Rick throughout this edition of Nuggets. It's a very special show, as I'm sure you'll find out. All right. First, here's a tune that Rick Curtis wrote. What year did you write this?
And Mike too.
Yeah, and Mike too.
Which one is that?
Mike's not here. This is Blue Letter.
Yeah,
we're going to play the Fleetwood Mac version first.
I don't remember what year that was.
Long time ago.
Gee whiz.
I think the Fleetwood Mac thing came out around 75.
Yeah, that's it. Then.
Turned that band around. But how long had you written that before that? Do you remember?
Well, in fact, we played amateur night at the Troubadour in L.A., and we were told there was going to be another band there. And to shuffle stuff around in L.A., it takes time to get a group in a club for an audition because you have to bring all the junk, and it's a logistics nightmare, you know. And the other band was Buckingham Nicks with Waddy Wattel, who was playing guitar with them, and of course they burned us right off the stage. I mean, they were just great. They were fantastic.
They would have to be good. Anyway, God. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's play the Mac tune. All right. Actually, what do you? How do you? Now, did you co-write this with some of the guys in Mac, or is this strictly?
No, that's just me and my brother.
Okay.
That's our fusion music. You know, country and Midwestern country and rock together.
All right. Well, let's check it out. This is Blue Letter, written by Rick and Mike Curtis, as performed by Fleetwood Mac on Rock 104. All right, we were talking about you went out to New York while everybody else went out to California, and we just played some Bob Dylan. Did you ever get a chance to?
I never met Bob Dylan. I
never saw Dylan, or
just knew Harvey Brooks, who played bass for him a lot, which was pretty close in those days, as close as you could get to him.
He was pretty elusive for a long time.
Yeah, I think he had a family. He was building a family, you know, him and his wife at the time. They have 5 kids, so sure at that time they were holding up in Woodstock somewhere.
We also had the Doors and Hendrix there. I understand the Curtis brothers opened up for Jimi Hendrix many years ago.
Yeah, that was in Florida. My father, who was in radio, he was in sales, and he heard about the gig and got us the gig for. It was at Gulfstream Park. It was one of the first times Hendrix played in the South, I think, and it was a pretty controversial scene for him too. He really was. I think he was a little nervous because of what he'd been through in the South. Yeah, as a black person.
That's right. That's right. A lot of people don't think of Hendrix that way because he was such a rocker. You know?
Yeah, it's true.
But it's the same.
Pretty universal, but down south in those days it was pretty different. But it was a riot playing for him. Having my father get a chance to meet him was really a big break for me.
You introduced your father to Jimi Hendrix. Whoa!
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
What'd they talk about?
Music. Really? You know, yeah. Well, everybody was in awe of the guy. Of course, you know, he was a legend in his own time, as people can say. And my father liked Benny Goodman, and he loved music and musicians, Duke Ellington, and so Hendrix was just another great musician for him to meet. He was really proud to have met him.
Huh. What time period? Oh, well, it's probably, it's hard to say exactly what kind of material it was. For sure. What about, listen to the Doors?
The Doors, well, I saw them at the scene in New York a few times. I was lucky just to get a chance to see them. I thought I didn't get a chance to meet any of them. I met Robbie Krieger once, and he's a great guy. They're a long-suffering bunch to keep up with Jim, who, you know, when you want to have a group and get famous and stuff, and Jim was like anti-fame in his fame. He was a pretty wild guy. So,
what kind of sets did they do? Did they rip it up there?
They got real wild. Well, at that time, New York was pretty straight, you know, with a bunch of guys, and they were playing at Ondine's, which is a place where you go to get your martini lunch, you know, in New York. And he'd come out in black leather and freak everybody out, and, you know, New Yorkers can be just as straight as just about anybody. Yeah. And so they're easy to surprise, and they did it. They definitely blew New York apart.
Yeah, they definitely they did the whole world, I think. What about, God, so what was it like? You were in New York, writing songs?
Oh, I should mention one thing. One of my parents lived in New York during the war, right after the war, and they met some people called the Proctor family whose grandfather lived in Goshen, and we lived across the street from the Proctor family grandfather, who's, you know, old man Yoder, and And the guy who, Philip Proctor, who's in the Firesign Theater, spent all of his summers right across the street from me. So
Really?
yeah, I pretty much grew up with him, and he's a.
Does he ever come back?
Yeah, I see him once in a while. He speaks 30 languages now. He's
No.
yeah, and he's
What-
been writing with Sid Caesar, and he's been doing TV and stuff.
Philip
out there.
Proctor of Firesign Theater is
Yeah.
now writing with Sid Caesar.
And he loves Indiana and Goshen.
Yeah. Well, he did. He used to do. They used to have a riff in Firesign Theater. They go
About Goshen?
Land of Goshen.
Yeah.
They do that riff in there, and then I read an interview a long time ago. Something. Well, yeah, I'm actually from there. So.
Yeah, he's a great guy. He helped me out a lot, with entertainment, and
Yeah.
because I really always wanted to be an entertainer, and
So what was that like when you went to New York? How'd you?
well, I was born.
What do you
there.
have to do? You have to hang out with.
Yeah, you have to. We went there during a very musically rich time in New York, which of course, it is that way now. I think there was a lull for a while, about 10 years, but now there's like Hall & Oates, and there's a lot of really heavy talent there, and yeah, we went there at a time when there were just a ton of things going on, and we were just our timing couldn't have been more perfect for
Yeah.
that kind of a thing. And
What kind of trials and tribulations do you have to go through to get your music?
well, we came back with malnutrition on that trip.
Did you?
Yeah, pulling our teeth out with our fingers and stuff. But that's the fun of it. You have to be willing to risk to get someplace like that.
What made you decide to go to California?
Well, that was an accident. A friend of mine, Crazy Horse, had played in town. This is in Florida, and he said I was going home, and he said, "Well, why don't you come up to this party? The Crazy Horse is having a party, and I know them all." And well, I didn't know any of them, so I believed him. Of course, I went with him, and
I know.
he shoved me in and shut the door. He took off. So I was at this party with everybody in the group that I didn't know anybody. So I went out on the balcony to get away from the party, and the drummer was out on the balcony, Ralphie Molina, who is a great drummer, and been playing with Neil for many years, and I played some guitar for him, and he didn't say much then, but I got a letter from him a couple of weeks later, asking me to join the group, and
Ah.
I brought Mike came along.